November 9th, 1958, Libyan desert. A British oil surveyor named Gordon Bowerman stops his Land Rover and climbs out into the heat. Something is reflecting sunlight in the distance. Metal. He walks toward it, boots crunching on sand, thinking maybe it is an old fuel drum or abandoned equipment. It is not. It is a B-24 Liberator bomber sitting upright in the sand like it landed yesterday. No scorch marks, no explosion crater, just a plane in the middle of nowhere, 400 miles from the nearest airfield. Bowerman approaches slowly, half expecting someone to climb out and ask for directions. Nobody does. The cockpit is empty. So is the rest of the plane. No bodies, no blood, no sign anyone died here. Just an abandoned bomber with the engine still attached and the gun still loaded. He checks the serial number on the tail. 41-24301. He writes it down, gets back in his Land Rover, and drives to the nearest military outpost. When he hands the number to a British officer, the officer goes pale. This plane has been missing for 15 years. The crew was declared dead in 1943. But if the plane is here, 400 miles deep in the desert, then where are the 9 men who flew it, and how did they get here? The answer is a nightmare. April 4th, 1943, 15 years earlier, Salak Airfield, Libya. Lieutenant William Hatton cannot stop his hands from shaking. He grips the control yoke tighter, hoping nobody in the crew notices. This is his first combat mission. First time over enemy territory. First time someone will try to kill him. He is 24 years old, and he feels like a child pretending to be a soldier. His co-pilot, Robert Toner, climbs into the seat next to him. Toner is older, 26. He has flown 3 missions, and the crew treats him like a veteran. Hatton does the math in his head. If 3 missions makes you a veteran, what does 0 missions make you? A dead man, probably. Toner glances at Hatton and sees the shaking hands. He does not say anything. There is nothing to say. Everyone is terrified on their first mission. The ones who survive learn to hide it better. The rest of the crew loads into the plane. Navigator D.P. Hayes, Bombardier John Waravka, radio operator Robert Lamotte, flight engineer René Leboeuf, and 4 gunners. Harold Ripslinger, Vernon Moore, Samuel Adams, Guy Shelley. 9 men total. Average age 22. Combined combat experience, 12 missions. They are the crew of the Lady Be Good, B-24 serial number 41-24301, and in 6 hours most of them will be dead. The mission is simple. Fly to Naples, bomb the harbor, fly home. The briefing officer makes it sound easy, like a Sunday drive. But the weather is not cooperating. A sandstorm rolls in from the desert just as the engines start. Visibility drops to nothing. The takeoff is scrubbed. The crew sits in the plane for 2 hours, waiting. Nobody talks much. Waravka pulls out a letter he is writing to his wife. He stares at it, but does not write anything. What do you say to your wife when you might die today? I love you? Probably. But he cannot find the words, so he folds the paper and puts it back in his pocket. At 4 in the afternoon, the sandstorm clears enough for the mission to proceed. The commanding officer gives the order. Go now, or do not go at all. Hatton makes the call. They go. 9 planes take off in formation. Lady Be Good is in the middle. Hatton counts them as they climb. 9 bombers heading toward enemy territory. He wonders how many will come back. Probably not 9. The flight across the Mediterranean Sea takes 3 hours. No German fighters appear, no anti-aircraft fire, just silence. The crew is tense. Silence is worse than combat. Silence means the enemy is waiting. Lamotte tries the radio again, checking in with base, but the signal is weak and garbled. He adjusts the frequency. Still nothing clear. He makes a note in his log. Radio issues. He does not know it yet, but that malfunction will kill him. At 7:30 in the evening, Naples appears on the horizon. The harbor is lit up, making it an easy target. Waravka leans into his bomb sight and starts calculating. Wind, altitude, airspeed. He has trained for this 100 times. Now it is real. The formation approaches the target. German anti-aircraft guns open fire. Black puffs of smoke erupt around the bombers. One shell explodes 30 feet from Lady Be Good. The plane shakes violently. Shrapnel punches through the fuselage. A jagged hole appears 2 feet from Hatton's head. He does not flinch. He cannot. If he flinches, the plane wavers, and the bombs miss. So he holds steady and prays the next shell misses too. Waravka releases the bombs. 2,000 pounds of high explosive drop toward the ships below. The plane lurches upward, suddenly lighter. Hatton turns away from Naples, heading back toward Libya. Behind them, the bombs hit. Explosions ripple across the harbor. Fires ignite. Mission accomplished. They did their job. Now they just have to get home. That is when everything goes wrong. The sandstorm they avoided at takeoff has moved. It is now between them and Solok Airfield. The visibility is 0. The stars are gone. The moon is gone. Everything is brown haze and darkness. Hayes tries to navigate by instruments, but the magnetic compass is spinning erratically. He does not know why. Maybe desert magnetism. Maybe damage from the anti-aircraft fire. Maybe just bad luck. He plots a course east toward the Libyan coast, then south toward Solok. The math looks right. It should work, but it does not. Lamott tries the radio again. He needs a navigation beacon, a signal, anything that tells them where they are. All he gets is static. He changes frequencies, more static. He checks the equipment. Everything looks functional, but nothing is working. They are flying blind through a sandstorm with no communication and broken navigation. Hatton feels his hands start shaking again. At midnight, Hayes announces they should be over Solok. Everyone looks out the windows. Sand, just endless sand. No airfield, no lights, no runway. Hayes recalculates. Maybe they are early. Maybe the wind pushed them faster. Hatton starts circling, burning fuel, waiting for the base to appear. They circle for 20 minutes. Still nothing. The fuel gauge is dropping fast. Too fast. Hatton makes a decision. Keep flying east. Maybe they overshot Solok. Maybe the base is ahead, not below. Toner does not say anything, but Hatton sees the doubt in his eyes. They are lost. They both know it. But what else can they do? Circling here will run them out of fuel. At least flying east gives them a chance. They fly for another hour. No airfield, no lights, no landmarks. Just sand stretching to infinity. The fuel gauge drops into the red zone. The engines start coughing. They are running on fumes. Hatton checks the altimeter. 8,000 feet. When the engines quit, they have maybe 3 minutes before hitting the ground. At 2 in the morning, the number 3 engine dies. The propeller windmills uselessly, then Hatton feathers it, shutting it down to reduce drag. The plane is still flying on 3 engines, but barely. Altitude is dropping. 5 minutes later, the number 1 engine quits. Now they are down to 2. The plane is falling, slowly at first, then faster. Hatton fights the controls, trying to keep the nose up, but it is useless. When the last 2 engines die, they will have 90 seconds before impact. He gives the order. Bail out. Now. Nobody hesitates. They have trained for this. Emergency bailout. Jump through the bomb bay doors, pull the ripcord, hope the chute opens. Waravka goes first. He crosses himself, then drops through the hatch into the darkness below. Adams follows. Then Shelley. Then Moore. Then Leboeuf. Then Ripslinger. Then Lamott. Then Hayes. Each man disappears into the black void beneath the plane. Finally, Toner. He looks at Hatton one last time. His face says everything. We are going to die down there. Hatton nods. Probably, but at least they will die trying. Toner jumps. Hatton is alone. The plane is shaking apart. Altitude is dropping through 4,000 feet. He sets the autopilot to level flight, hoping it buys the crew a few extra seconds to get clear. Then he climbs out of his seat, moves to the bomb bay, and jumps into the void. The parachute opens. The jerk nearly dislocates his shoulders, but he does not care. He is alive. He floats down through absolute darkness, unable to see the ground, unable to see anything. When he hits, it is hard. Sand. He rolls, collapses his chute, struggles to his feet. His ankle is screaming, probably sprained. He scans the horizon for the others. Nothing. Just darkness and wind and the distant sound of engines. Above him, Lady Be Good continues flying. The autopilot holds the nose level. The plane glides on momentum, traveling 16 more miles before finally touching down in the sand. It lands wheels up, skidding across the desert floor, tearing off the nose turret and shredding the belly, but leaving the fuselage mostly intact. It comes to rest in the middle of absolute nowhere. No fire, no explosion, just a bomber sitting in the sand 400 miles from the nearest human being. Empty. Morning comes. Hatton finds Toner, then Hayes, then Waravka, then Lamott, then Ripslinger, then Adams, then Shelley. 8 men. 1 is missing. They call his name. Vernon Moore. Tail gunner. No answer. They search for an hour, walking in expanding circles, shouting until their voices give out. Nothing. Moore is gone. Maybe his chute failed. Maybe he landed 10 miles away. Maybe he is already dead. They do not know, and they cannot keep searching. 8 men stranded in the Sahara Desert with no water, no food, no shelter, and no idea where they are. Toner pulls out a small notebook and starts writing. April 5th, 1943. We bailed out last night. 8 of us made it. Moore is missing. No sign of the base. We think we're about 50 miles north of Solok, going to start walking south. Should reach the airfield in 2 days. Morale is good. He closes the notebook. His hand is shaking when he writes that last sentence. Morale is good. It is a lie. Everyone knows it, but lies are all they have left. They start walking south. The sun is rising. The temperature is already 90 degrees and climbing. By noon, it will hit 130. They have no water, no hats, no sunglasses, just flight suits and desperation. Hayes does the math in his head. 50 miles, 2 days of walking. They can do this. They have to do this. But Hayes is wrong. They are not 50 miles from Solok. They are 400 miles from Solok. They are deep in the Libyan desert, one of the most hostile environments on Earth. No water, no shade, no rescue. The nearest human being is 200 miles away. Even if they walk in a straight line, even if they do not get lost, even if everything goes perfectly, they will be dead in 4 days. But they do not know that yet. They think they are close to safety. They think help is just over the next dune. So they keep walking, believing every step brings them closer to home. They are wrong. Every step takes them deeper into hell. Hour 12, April 5th, 1943. Morning. The sun is up, and 8 men are walking south through sand that burns through their flight suit fabric. Hatton is in the lead. His ankle throbs, but he does not slow down, because slowing down means thinking, and thinking means realizing they have no water and no idea where they are. Toner walks beside him, checking his compass every few minutes. South. They are walking south. Toward Solok. Toward rescue. The needle points the way, and they follow it like gospel. Except the needle is lying. Lamotte is already struggling. The radio operator's legs are cramping after 3 hours of walking. Adams notices and falls back to match his pace. Lamott tries to wave him forward. Save yourself. Adams ignores him. They walk together in silence because talking dries your mouth, and neither of them has moisture to spare. Hour 18. The temperature hits 130 degrees. Ripslinger takes off his jacket to cool down. Within 20 minutes, his arms are bright red. Sunburn. He puts the jacket back on, but the damage is done. His skin is blistering. By tonight, those blisters will rupture, and the exposed flesh will cook. He does not know this yet. Right now, he just knows his arms hurt. Waravka is quiet. Too quiet. The bombardier is walking, but his eyes are unfocused. His lips are moving. Hatton slows to walk beside him. "What are you saying?" Waravka does not answer. He is talking to someone who is not here. His wife, maybe, or God, or nobody. Hatton leaves him alone. Everyone copes differently. Hour 24. Midnight. They have been walking for 12 hours. Hayes checks his map in the moonlight. By his calculations, they should have covered 20 miles. Maybe more. Solok should be close. He scans the horizon. Nothing. Just sand. He recalculates. Maybe the wind slowed them down. Maybe they are walking slower than he thought. The math should work. It has to work. He folds the map and keeps walking. Hour 30. Dawn. April 6th. The men collapse where they stand and try to sleep. The desert is freezing. 40 degrees. They shiver in sweat-soaked flight suits. Nobody sleeps. Hatton lies on his back and stares at the sky. His throat feels like sandpaper. His tongue is swelling. He tries to produce saliva. His body has nothing left to give. Hour 36. The sun is up. Temperature climbing fast. They stand and keep walking. Nobody speaks. Speaking wastes moisture. Lamott stumbles. Adams catches him. Lamott tries to say thank you, but his tongue is too swollen to form words. Adams just nods, and they keep moving. Hour 42. Waravka sees his wife. She is walking toward him across the sand, smiling, holding a glass of water. He stops. She is close. So close. He can see the condensation on the glass. He reaches for it. His fingers close on air. She is gone. He stands there for a full minute, staring at nothing. Hayes has to physically push him to get him moving again. Hour 48. Adams collapses. Not dramatically. He just stops walking and sits down. His legs will not respond anymore. Toner tries to pull him up. Adams shakes his head. "Go. I will catch up." Toner knows he will not catch up. They both know. But arguing wastes energy neither of them has. The group keeps walking. Adams sits in the sand and watches them get smaller. He is still sitting there 3 hours later when his heart stops. Hour 52. Shelley is limping badly. Twisted ankle. Every step is agony. He leans on Ripslinger for support. The two gunners move as one, shuffling through the sand. Ripslinger's burned arms are weeping fluid. Shelley's ankle is swollen to twice its size. Neither complains. Complaining does not fix injuries. Hour 54. Lamott collapses. This time he does not get back up. Hayes checks his pulse. Weak. Thready. Lamott's eyes are open but unfocused. Dehydration has pushed him past the point of recovery. They cannot carry him. They do not have the strength. Waravka sits down next to Lamott. "I will stay with him," Hatton argues. "We stay together." Waravka shakes his head. "You go. Find help. Send someone back for us." Hatton stares at him. They both know nobody is coming back, but what else can they do? 5 men walk away. 2 men stay behind, sitting in the sand, waiting for rescue that will never arrive. Hour 60. 5 men walking. Hatton, Toner, Hayes, Ripslinger, Shelley. Ripslinger is supporting Shelley. Shelley's ankle is useless. He is hopping on one leg, leaning his full weight on Ripslinger. Ripslinger's burned arms are screaming, but he does not let go. Hour 64. Hayes pulls out the compass, checks it against the sun, stops walking, checks again. The compass needle is pointing north, but the sun is rising in the east, which means they are walking north, not south, north, away from Solok, away from rescue. They have been walking in the wrong direction for 3 days. Hayes stares at the compass, then at the sun, then back at the compass, the magnetic interference, the desert metal deposits, the navigation error. It does not matter why. What matters is they are walking the wrong way. They have been walking the wrong way since they started. Every step has taken them deeper into the desert, farther from safety, closer to death. He tells Hatton. Hatton stops walking, looks at the compass, looks at the sun, says one word, no. Hayes shows him the math. The sun does not lie. The compass is wrong. They are walking north. Hatton grabs the compass and throws it as hard as he can. It lands 30 feet away. Nobody retrieves it. They stand there for 10 minutes. 5 men in the middle of nowhere, realizing they are more lost than they thought, realizing rescue is not close, realizing they might already be dead. Toner pulls out his notebook, writes one sentence. We went the wrong way. His hand is shaking so badly the words are barely legible. Shelley sits down. I cannot walk anymore. Ripslinger tries to pull him up. Shelley does not move. His ankle is destroyed. His body is shutting down. He looks at Ripslinger and says 4 words. Leave me. Find help. Ripslinger shakes his head. We stay together. Shelley pushes him away. Go. Ripslinger stands there, torn between staying and going. Hatton makes the decision for him. We keep moving. Ripslinger looks back at Shelley one last time. Shelley is already lying down, eyes closed. Ripslinger turns and walks away. Hour 70. 4 men. Hatton, Toner, Hayes, Ripslinger. They are walking south now, the right direction. But it does not matter. They are so deep in the desert that walking south for 3 days will not save them. The math is brutal. They are 90 miles from the nearest human being, walking 2 miles per hour, 45 hours of walking. They do not have 45 hours. They do not have 4 hours. Hour 72. Ripslinger collapses. His burned arms are infected. His body is in septic shock. He tries to stand. His legs do not respond. He looks up at the others. Go. They do not argue. They just walk away. Ripslinger watches them until they disappear over a dune. Then he closes his eyes. Hour 76. 3 men. Hatton, Toner, Hayes. Hayes is hallucinating. He sees his childhood home in Iowa. His mother is on the porch. She is calling him for dinner. He tries to answer, but his voice does not work. His tongue is too swollen. His throat is too dry. He stumbles toward the house. It vanishes. He is standing in the middle of the desert, alone. He sits down and does not get back up. Hour 80. 2 men, Hatton and Toner, pilot and co-pilot. They do not speak. They do not look at each other. They just walk, 1 foot in front of the other. Breathing is hard. Swallowing is impossible. Vision is narrowing. The world is collapsing to a tunnel. Hour 84. Toner stops walking. Just stops. Hatton keeps going for 10 steps before he realizes Toner is not beside him anymore. He turns around. Toner is standing 50 feet back, swaying. Hatton walks back to him. Toner looks at him but does not seem to see him. Toner's eyes are glassy. His skin is gray. He is dying right now. Standing up. Dying. Toner pulls out his notebook, opens it. The pages are stained with sweat and blood. He writes 5 words. April 7th. Still no water. Done. His hand is shaking so badly the pen tears the paper. He closes the notebook, sets it carefully on the sand. Then he sits down, slowly, like he is lowering himself into a chair. He lies back, closes his eyes. Hatton stands over him. Toner, get up. Toner does not respond. Hatton kneels beside him. Toner, we have to keep moving. Toner's chest is still rising and falling, but his eyes stay closed. Hatton shakes him. Nothing. He tries to pull Toner to his feet. Toner is dead weight. Hatton does not have the strength. He is barely standing himself. Hatton stays with Toner for 20 minutes, watching his chest rise and fall, then stop. Toner dies without opening his eyes, without saying a word. He just stops breathing. Hatton stands, looks down at Toner's body, looks at the horizon. Then he turns north and starts walking. Not south, north. He is delirious. His brain is shutting down. Navigation is gone. Logic is gone. He just walks. Hour 88. Hatton is alone. The pilot who could not stop his hands from shaking. The man who was terrified of his first combat mission. He survived the mission, survived the bailout, survived 3 days in the desert. And now he is walking north, away from salvation, toward nothing. His body is moving on autopilot. His mind is somewhere else. Maybe he is back in the cockpit of Lady Be Good. Maybe he is home. Maybe he is nowhere. Hour 90. Hatton's legs stop working. He falls forward into the sand, tries to push himself up. His arms collapse. He lies there, face down, breathing shallow breaths. The sun is setting. The temperature is dropping. By morning, it will be 40 degrees. Hatton will not see morning. His heart will stop around midnight. The autopsy will say dehydration, exposure, organ failure. But the real cause is simpler. He walked 90 miles in the wrong direction and ran out of time. 8 men bailed out of a bomber 4 days ago. Now all 8 are dead or dying, scattered across 100 miles of desert. Waravka and Lamott died on day 4, sitting together 20 feet apart. Adams died on day 3, alone. Shelley died on day 3, alone. Ripslinger died on day 4, alone. Hayes died on day 4, alone. Toner died on day 4. Hatton died on day 4. Vernon Moore, the missing tail gunner, died on day 1, 200 miles north. His parachute opened, but he broke his leg on landing. He lasted 12 hours. None of them made it. The closest man to safety was still 90 miles from help. They thought they were 50 miles from rescue. They were 400 miles from rescue. That mistake killed all of them. The desert does not care about hope. It does not care about courage. It only cares about water. These men had none. 17 years later, in 1960, search teams will find the bodies, one by one, scattered across the sand. Toner's notebook will be beside his body, the pages perfectly preserved, the final entry still legible. April 7th. Still no water. Done. 5 words that tell the whole story. 8 men walked into the desert believing salvation was close. It was not. They walked in the wrong direction for 3 days before they realized their mistake. By then, it was too late. They died alone, scattered across 100 miles of hell in one of the most hostile places on earth. And their plane, Lady Be Good, sits 16 miles from where they jumped. Empty, intact. The radio still works. The emergency supplies are still in the fuselage. Water, food, flares. Everything they needed to survive. 16 miles away. They never found it. They walked in the opposite direction. If they had walked 16 miles north instead of 90 miles south, they would have found the plane, found the supplies, survived. But they did not know the plane was there. They thought it had crashed. They thought they were closer to base. They were wrong. That mistake killed all of them. November 9th, 1958. 15 years, 7 months, and 5 days after Lady Be Good disappeared. British petroleum oil surveyor Gordon Bowerman is driving a Land Rover across the Libyan desert 200 miles south of Tobruk. The heat is brutal, 120 degrees. He is mapping potential drilling sites in territory so barren that maps label it uninhabitable wasteland. Blank space. Nothing. 11:47 a.m. Bowerman sees something reflecting sunlight 3 miles east. Metal. He assumes it is an old fuel drum. He turns toward it. As he gets closer, the shape resolves into something impossible. It is an airplane, a 4-engine bomber, sitting upright in the sand like it landed yesterday. Bowerman stops 200 feet away and climbs out. The plane is a B-24 Liberator. American, World War II. The paint is sun-bleached but intact. No scorch marks, no explosion crater. The landing gear is retracted. This plane belly-landed and stayed put. Bowerman walks closer. The engines are still attached. The propellers are bent but undamaged. The guns are still in the turrets, barrels pointing at empty sky. This plane did not crash. It landed. Then somebody walked away. He circles the fuselage. The cockpit canopy is open. He climbs onto the wing, metal hot enough to burn through his boots, and looks inside. Empty. No bodies, no blood. The pilot's seat is positioned like someone just stood up and left. The control yoke is centered. The throttles are pulled back to idle. Whoever flew this plane set it down gently, then abandoned it. Bowerman climbs down and walks to the bomb bay. The doors are open. Parachute racks empty. The crew bailed out. That explains the missing bodies. But it raises a bigger question. Why bail out when the plane landed this well? He checks the tail. Serial number 41-24301. He writes it in his notebook, gets back in the Land Rover, and drives 4 hours to the British military outpost at Tobruk. When Bowerman hands the serial number to squadron leader David McIntyre, McIntyre stops mid-sentence. He stares at the numbers. Then he walks to a filing cabinet, pulls out a folder, and opens it without saying a word. Lady Be Good, B-24D Liberator, 376th Bombardment Group, took off from Salak Airfield, Libya, April 4, 1943. Failed to return. Crew of 9 presumed dead. McIntyre looks up. You found this plane where? Bowerman points to the map. 400 miles south of Salak. McIntyre stares. That is impossible. They were flying home from Naples. Even if they overshot the base, they would have hit the coast. They could not have gone 400 miles inland. Bowerman shrugs. The plane is sitting there right now. McIntyre closes the folder. 2 days later, a recovery convoy arrives. November 11, 1958. 20 men, photographers, engineers, RAF investigators. They spend 6 hours documenting the wreck. What they find is more disturbing than the location. An engineer powers up the radio with a portable generator. It works. Receiver functional. Transmitter functional. Whatever went wrong, it was not the radio. The crew could have called for help. They did not. Or they did, and nobody heard. The guns are fully loaded. 50 caliber rounds still in the belts. The crew never fired a shot. No combat, no fighters. They made it back from Naples untouched. There is a thermos in the cockpit. One of the investigators unscrews the cap. Coffee, 15 years old, still liquid. The desert air preserved it perfectly. He sniffs. Smells like coffee. He does not taste it. The flight log is on the navigator's table. Last entry, April 4, 1943, 7:52 p.m. Position estimated 30 miles north of Salak. ETA 20 minutes. Then nothing. No emergency notes. Just routine navigation, then blank pages. An engineer finds parachute harnesses in the bomb bay. 7 of them. The crew jumped, but the plane is intact. Why? He checks the fuel tanks. Empty. Bone dry. That is the answer. They ran out of fuel, bailed out rather than write it down. Standard procedure, except the plane landed perfectly on autopilot. If they had stayed aboard, they would have survived. Instead, they jumped into the desert at night with no idea where they were. The team searches around the plane. No bodies, no parachutes, no footprints. Just sand. If the crew bailed out near here, where did they go? McIntyre expands the search. 3 days later, RAF Venom jets fly grid patterns. On November 14th, a pilot radios in. White fabric 8 miles northwest. Looks like a parachute. A ground team drives out. It is a parachute, fully deployed, tangled in rocks. No body. They search the area. Nothing. Just the chute. Over the next week, they find 4 more, all deployed, all empty. No sign of the men who jumped. McIntyre calls off the search. The plane is found. The parachutes are found. The crew is gone. He sends a report to the U.S. Air Force. Lady Be Good located. Crew status unknown. December 1958. U.S. Air Force investigators arrive. They test everything. Engines, controls, navigation. They want to know what went wrong. The engines are fine. No mechanical failure. The autopilot is still engaged. That is why the plane landed intact. After the crew jumped, it kept flying until it gently touched down. The navigation instruments are the problem. The magnetic compass is erratic. Desert interference. The crew might have been navigating with bad readings, thinking they were flying south when they were flying east. By the time they realized, they were lost. The fuel tanks confirm the timeline. Empty. The crew flew until the engines quit, then bailed out. Standard. Except they were over unmarked desert at night. They thought they were near Salak. They were 400 miles away. February 1960. 16 months after the plane was found. A British petroleum team is working 90 miles north of the crash site. Surveyor Ronald Main sees something white, half buried in sand. He walks over. It is a flight suit, U.S. Army Air Forces. He brushes away sand. There is a body inside. Main radios for help. 6 hours later, a recovery team arrives. They excavate carefully. The body is mummified. Desert air preserved it. Skin leathery. Face unrecognizable. But dog tags intact. Lieutenant John S. Waravka, bombardier. Lady Be Good. Around him, an empty canteen, a folded parachute, a notebook. The team leader opens the notebook. The last entry is April 9th, 1943, 5 days after bailout. 3 words, cannot continue. The handwriting is shaky, barely legible. The leader closes the notebook. His hands are shaking too. Waravka walked 90 miles through the desert before his body gave out. 90 miles without water. The discovery triggers a massive search. If one body is here, the others must be close. Over 4 months, they find 7 more. February 27th. Samuel Adams, gunner, 85 miles from the plane, a water bottle beside him. He tried to drink his own urine. It did not help. March 11th. Guy Shelley and Harold Ripslinger, 90 miles out, 20 feet apart. Shelley's ankle is shattered. Ripslinger's arms are burned black. They died together. March 24th. Robert Lamott, radio operator, 92 miles, a notebook beside him. Last entry, April 8th. Tried, failed, forgive. An investigator reads it aloud. Nobody speaks for a full minute. April 9th. D.P. Hayes, navigator, 97 miles. His maps are still in his pack. He died trying to find the way out. May 12th. Robert Toner and William Hatton, found 300 feet apart, 109 miles from the plane. Toner's notebook is beside his body. The recovery team leader opens it. He reads the last entry out loud to the team standing in the sand. April 7th, 1943. Still no water. Done. His voice cracks on the last word. He closes the notebook and sets it down carefully, like it might break. One of the men kneels beside Hatton's body. The pilot is face down, hands clawed into the sand like he was trying to crawl. The man reaches out to touch the mummified skin. It crumbles under his fingers. He pulls his hand back fast, staring at the dust on his palm. That was a person, 24 years old. That was someone's son. 8 bodies. 8 men who bailed out and walked over 100 miles before dying of dehydration. Hatton and Toner made it 109 miles, a world record for desert survival without water. Nobody has ever matched it. The 9th man, Vernon Moore, tail gunner, is never found. The autopsies are brief. Dehydration, exposure, starvation. They died over 8 days, April 4th to April 12th, 1943. The investigators reconstruct the route. The crew bailed out, started walking south, realized they were lost, split up. The weaker men stayed behind. The stronger men pushed ahead. One by one, they collapsed. Waravka, Lamotta, Shelley, Adams, Ripslinger, Hayes, Toner, Hatton, all dead. McIntyre flies out to see the final body recovery. He stands in the desert, staring at the spot where Hatton died. 109 miles from the plane, 109 miles in the wrong direction. He walks back to the helicopter and radios base. Send the transport. We are bringing them home. Back at headquarters, McIntyre opens the file one last time. He reads the navigation log from the plane. Position estimated 30 miles north of Salak. They thought they were almost home. They were 400 miles away. He picks up Toner's notebook. The pages are brittle. He turns to the last entry. Still no water. Done. He closes it and places it in the evidence box. An engineer walks in. We found something else at the plane. Emergency supplies. McIntyre looks up. What kind of supplies? Water, food, flares, signal equipment, everything they needed. It was in the rear fuselage. McIntyre stands. How far was the plane from where they bailed out? The engineer checks his notes. 16 miles, give or take. McIntyre sits back down. 16 miles. The crew walked 100 miles south. The plane was 16 miles north. If they had walked toward the plane instead of away from it, they would have found the supplies. They would have survived. But they did not know the plane was there. They thought it crashed. They were wrong. McIntyre closes the file and locks it in the cabinet. Lady Be Good. 9 men. 8 bodies. 1 ghost. The plane sat in the desert for 15 years before anyone found it. The crew walked over 100 miles before dying. 16 miles. They were 16 miles from salvation and walked in the opposite direction. The desert does not forgive mistakes. June 14, 1960. Arlington National Cemetery, Virginia. 8 flag-draped coffins sit in a row under a cloudless sky. 200 people stand in silence. Family members, military officials, reporters. The crew of Lady Be Good is finally coming home 17 years after they disappeared. Mary Hatton stands at the front. She is 41 years old. Her son William was 24 when he died. She has not seen him since 1942, when he left for training. She received a telegram in 1943. Missing in action. Presumed dead. She buried an empty coffin. Now they are telling her he walked 100 miles through the Sahara before dying of thirst. She does not know which is worse, thinking he died quickly in a crash or knowing he suffered for 8 days. An officer approaches. He is holding a small wooden box. "Ma'am, your son kept a journal. We thought you might want it." Mary takes the box. Her hands are shaking. She opens it. The notebook is small, leather-bound. She turns to the last page. April 7th, 1943. Still no water. Done. 5 words in her son's handwriting. She closes the notebook and holds it against her chest. The chaplain begins the ceremony. He talks about sacrifice, duty, honor. Mary does not hear any of it. She is thinking about those 5 words. Still no water. Done. Her son knew he was going to die. He wrote it down. Then he lay down in the sand and let it happen. She wonders what his last thoughts were. Did he think of her? Did he think of home? Or was he too far gone to think at all? A rifle salute cracks the air. 7 shots. Mary flinches with each one. The honor guard folds the flag from William's coffin into a tight triangle and hands it to her. On behalf of a grateful nation. She nods. She does not trust herself to speak. The ceremony ends. People approach to offer condolences. She thanks them mechanically. When everyone leaves, she stands alone in front of the coffins. 8 boys, 8 mistakes, 1 bad navigation reading, and they all died. She turns and walks away. September 1960. The Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. receives a donation. The nose section of Lady Be Good. Engines, landing gear, instruments. They are building an exhibit. The Ghost Bomber of the Sahara. Curator Dr. Harold Mercer is assembling the display. He has photographs, flight logs, personal effects recovered from the crash site. He also has Robert Toner's notebook. Mercer opens it carefully. The pages are brittle. He reads the entries. April 5th. No water. Walking south. He pulls out a map and traces the crew's route. They walk south from where they bailed out. The plane landed 16 miles north. If they had walked the other direction, they would have found it, found the emergency supplies, survived. But they did not know the plane was there. They thought it crashed. So they walked away from salvation. Mercer closes the notebook and sits in silence. Then he writes the exhibit description. In April 1943, 9 American airmen bailed out over the Libyan desert after running out of fuel. They walked over 100 miles in search of rescue. All 8 died within 8 days. Their plane, Lady Be Good, was found intact 15 years later with full emergency supplies aboard. The crew never knew how close they were to survival. December 1963. The Libyan government announces Lady Be Good is being dismantled. The fuselage will go to the Air Force Museum in Dayton, the cockpit to the Smithsonian, the wings to London. Officials want the wreck removed. It is becoming a pilgrimage site. People are taking pieces as souvenirs. The plane is disappearing one fragment at a time. The U.S. Air Force sends a recovery team. They disassemble the plane over 3 weeks. When they remove the pilot seat, they find something wedged underneath. A photograph, faded, sun-damaged, a woman and a young boy. On the back, in pen, Mary and Will. 1930. William Hatton's mother and younger brother. The photo he carried on every flight. The team leader places it in an evidence bag. He will make sure it gets to Mary Hatton. March 1970. Documentary filmmaker Richard Hall is making a film about Lady Be Good. He tracks down surviving family members. Most refuse to talk. But Mary Hatton agrees. She is 62 now. Her other son, Will Jr., died in Vietnam 2 years ago. She has lost both her boys to war. Hall sets up the camera in her living room, asks her what she remembers about William. She talks for 20 minutes, his childhood, his enlistment, the last time she saw him. Then Hall asks the question he came to ask. Do you think he suffered? Mary stops, looks directly at the camera. Yes. I think he suffered terribly. I think he walked for days knowing he was going to die. I think he was in agony, and I think he did it because he believed help was close. He thought he was walking home. She pauses. He was walking to his grave, but he did not know that. So he kept going. Hall asks if she blames anyone. The military? The navigator? The plane? Mary shakes her head. I blame the desert. I blame bad luck. I blame war. But I do not blame my son. He did everything right. He flew the mission. He survived the bailout. He walked 100 miles. He did not quit. He just ran out of time. One more question. If you could say something to him now, what would it be? Mary does not hesitate. I would tell him I am proud of him. I would tell him he did not die for nothing. And I would tell him to rest. The documentary airs in 1971. It wins awards. The footage of Mary Hatton becomes iconic. Her words, I would tell him to rest, are quoted in newspapers. The film introduces a new generation to the story of Lady Be Good. Schools start teaching it. Military academies use it as a case study. The crew becomes famous for dying. But Mary Hatton does not care about any of that. She just wants her son back, and that is the one thing nobody can give her. 1985, the U.S. Air Force declassifies the full investigation report, 400 pages, timeline reconstructions, analysis of what went wrong. The conclusion is brutal. The crew did everything correctly except one thing. They trusted their compass. The magnetic interference threw off readings by 15 degrees. They thought they were flying south. They were flying southeast. By the time they realized, they were 400 miles off course. The report includes something else, a psychological evaluation by Dr. Ellen Strauss. She analyzes the notebook entries, the physical evidence, the distances walked. Her conclusion: the crew maintained discipline and morale far longer than expected. They did not panic. They did not turn on each other. Hatton and Toner walked 109 miles in 8 days with no water. That is 13 miles per day. In 130-degree heat. Dr. Strauss writes, "This is not a story of failure. This is a story of extraordinary resilience. Mary Hatton receives a copy of the report. She reads every word. When she gets to Dr. Strauss's conclusion, she opens the report to page 47. Autopsy photographs, black and white, clinical, mummified remains. Her son's body reduced to leathery skin and bones. She stares at the image for 10 seconds, then slams the report shut. Her hands are shaking. She walks to the kitchen sink and grips the edge. Breathes. After 5 minutes, she returns to the report, skips page 47, reads the rest. Extraordinary resilience. Her son did not just die, he fought, he endured, he proved himself. She closes the report and places it on the shelf next to Toner's notebook and the photograph from the pilot seat. 3 relics, 3 pieces of her son. That is all she has left. 2010, the 50th anniversary of the crew's repatriation. Arlington National Cemetery holds a memorial service. Only 3 family members attend: a grandson of D.P. Hayes, a niece of Samuel Adams, and Mary Hatton's granddaughter, Jennifer. Mary died in 1994. Jennifer never met her Uncle William, but she grew up hearing stories. She knows about the notebook, the photograph, the 100-mile walk. The chaplain gives a short speech. Then he invites anyone who wants to speak to come forward. Jennifer hesitates. Then she walks to the podium, pulls out a piece of paper, reads aloud. My grandmother, Mary Hatton, spent 50 years mourning her son. She never remarried, never moved. She kept his room exactly as he left it. Every year on the anniversary of his death, she would sit in that room and read his co-pilot's journal. The last entry, still no water. Done. And every year she would say the same thing. He did not give up. He just ran out of time. Jennifer looks up from the paper. That is what I want people to remember. Not that they died, but that they tried. They walked 100 miles in hell because they thought it would take them home. They were wrong, but they tried. She folds the paper and walks back to her seat. Nobody else speaks. The ceremony ends in silence. Today, Lady Be Good is scattered across 3 continents. The nose is in Dayton, the cockpit in Washington, the tail in London. Pieces in private collections, fragments in the Libyan desert, still half buried in sand. The plane that survived 15 years in the Sahara is now gone, dismantled, distributed. A ghost. But the crew is together. 8 graves, Arlington National Cemetery. Section 12, Row F, side by side. Hatton, Toner, Hayes, Waravka, Lamotte, Adams, Shelley, Ripslinger. Vernon Moore, the 9th man, was never found. His body is still out there. His grave is empty. But his name is on the memorial. 9 men who flew one mission and never came home. 9 men who walked through hell believing rescue was close. They were 400 miles from safety, 16 miles from supplies. And they did not know it. That is the legacy of Lady Be Good. Not failure, not tragedy, just cruel, random, unforgiving fate. Mary Hatton spent 50 years mourning her son. Every year she read his final journal entry. Still no water. Done. That's dedication. That's love. If you think stories like this deserve to be remembered, hit that like button. It helps us tell more of them. And if you want to hear about the WA22 heroes nobody talks about, subscribe. Because these men didn't quit. Neither should we.